Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Just the Ramblings podcast. This is episode 1. I am your host, Stefan, and welcome. So, a little bit about myself. I haven't started a podcast or been a part of a podcast before. Just the Ramblings is something I decided to do. Not to pass time or anything, but just to kind of work on self-expression and just like a journal of sorts. So, I plan to do this like daily. I don't want to do like a half an hour thing where you're just listening to me rambling on and on and on, even though the show is called Just the Ramblings. But I just want to use it as like a personal journal, talk about stuff that happened in my life, or happening in my life, and like my interests and things of that sort, and just kind of like relay it out to the public just to show, because I find it helpful watching like YouTube vlogs and everything like that, and finding information from people to help me in my daily life, and I decided to give a podcast a shot. So, a little bit of background about me. I'm currently 26. I'm an MBA student, so I went back a little bit later, but that's how life goes. And I'm a photographer, sneakerhead, Three Stripes Life. I love Adidas, for one. I'm not really the biggest Nike or Jordan fan, but on a later episode we can get to that and we can have a discussion about that, or rather, I can discuss on why that is. Of course, I'm not really a millennial. I was born in the 90s. But, of course, I have an Instagram. It's at ThatRudeInk. So, ink with a K. So, ThatRudeInk. No spaces, no underscores, no hashtags, so no slashes or anything like that. Just ThatRudeInk. So, on there, I post my photography and just every once in a while a selfie. I'm not really the biggest selfie person. So, why am I doing a podcast instead of like a vlog? I actually did try to do a vlog before, and then I realized I really have nothing to film. So, on that aspect, I tried. It was cool. My background, I have photography experience, of course, like I said, but I also have a bunch of videography experience. So, I learned film in high school, and then after that I kind of just used my camera to record video as well as photos. So filming a vlog, carrying a giant camera around everywhere, or even getting something like a GoPro, something like that to just record my life, I found it was not really my forte, and the kind of market was very oversaturated on YouTube. It's not really about the demonetization and people not getting paid as much as they used to on YouTube and things like that with the algorithm and such. That's all secondary to that. But for me, I felt that a podcast would, one, be easier for my audience to just kind of listen to at any point. I do watch a ton of vlogs, and they are very interesting, but they kind of have the market cornered in that aspect. And podcasting is becoming a bigger thing, and I'm an ease of access person, so I feel like if you can listen to it while you're at the gym or while you're in your car, or just literally any time of day, that's a bit more beneficial than just having to sit there and watch on a screen and then have a bunch of B-roll and everything like that. So this self-expression podcast is really just the easier route for me. So after that long-winded answer, we are going to move on with the actual meat and potatoes of episode 1. I don't even know why I said meat and potatoes. So, excuse me, this is episode 1. And as a podcast, I feel like you shouldn't edit it as heavily as you would, say, something like a vlog, or even a radio show where you have a script or something. You kind of have a flow to go on. This is the part of the rambling thing, so I'm just rambling on this. But, to get to the content of episode 1, I just didn't want to intro go into episode 1 and just start talking. A little background is very important, especially in the beginning stages of something like this. So what I really wanted to talk about in episode 1 was just a little lighthearted stuff. Like I said, I'm a sneakerhead. I have a lot of sneakers. I'm actually going to save the amount of sneakers that I have for a sneaker theme podcast episode. Oh yeah, and one more point. As a podcast, you're not seeing me, so if I wanted to record like a bunch of them in a row, I can. And depending on like the theme of the podcast, uh, it wouldn't really matter if I record one in a day or record like 5 in a day. So that's also a plus. I don't have to change my clothes every time I want to produce a podcast. Or if I have one really long one, I can split it up, which would be awesome. But yeah, getting back to the content of episode 1. Being a sneakerhead, I have a bunch of sneakers. I'm going to do a sneaker theme podcast one day. You can see some of my shoes on my Instagram, a lot more on the Insta story than the actual feed itself. My feed is mostly just my photography. But the new Yeezy 700 Inertias are coming out this weekend. And so I really stopped like buying shoes, not because I started to fall out of love with it or something like that, but I physically ran out of space to put shoes in my room. So yeah, that's the main reason that I stopped or like slowed down buying shoes. And also the fact that like I do want to wear all of my shoes. Like all of my shoes that I have, I worn them at least. I think the least amount I've worn a pair of shoes is twice. And that's just because like, well, I actually have 2 pairs that I wore twice. One of them because they're actually uncomfortable. And the second one because they're a pair of white Stan Smiths and it's the winter time. So I really haven't had like much to go on with that. I don't want to get them like filthy dirty or like use them as an everyday sneaker. But yeah, the Yeezy 700s, they're releasing this weekend, March 9th. I entered a couple of raffles for them because I have the original Wave Runners. I actually have 2 pairs, one to rock, one to stock, as people say. But yeah, the original Wave Runners, I love that shoe. I remember initially when like the leaks came out and everything, it looked terrible. I even commented that it looked terrible. It looked like Kanye, he wears a size 12, I believe. And then it looked like he was wearing a size like 15 on his foot. And then after the first initial release, when it was under pre-order, first of all, it's $300. It's an expensive shoe. But after that initial pre-order came out, and then it kind of sat for a while, but then people started falling in love with the shoe. And it took me to see people with outfits, like full put together outfits, to actually appreciate the shoe. And then now, like, if I need to run out anywhere, that's the one shoe I really grab. Especially since I have a bunch of, like, Ultra Boost and other knit sneakers. It's really not a feasible shoe for the winter time. So, yeah. I'm really excited about that. I'm really going to try and get a pair. I have some, like, family and friend business to take care of on the 9th. That hopefully can be able to get the shoe and take care of that. But, yeah. And then, moving on. Carly Rae Jepsen actually came out with 2 new songs last week. And if you know me, well, not even if you know me, I don't know how many of my friends know that I love Carly Rae Jepsen. Her album Emotion is incredible. It's one of my top 5 albums of all time. And probably in the next episode, I can either get into a sneaker aspect or my music preferences or music library, which is pretty extensive. On last count, when I moved phones, like my old phone like was terrible and the battery would last like half hour. But like I scrapped that, got a new phone, and I had to move all my music because this new phone does not have a SD card slot. So I realized I had over 600 albums, and yeah, I had to get a phone with an incredible amount of space. It's like 128 gigs. And then, yeah, I realized I have a lot of music. So, yeah, Carly Rae Jepsen, Emotion was a phenomenal album. It reminded me of both my childhood and then, like, when pop music was, like, the biggest thing. And when it was actually good. Well, pop music now is okay. So, but Carly Rae Jepsen, Emotion was, like, that 70s-ish vibe. Oh gosh, I can't believe I used the word vibe. I hate it when people, or it irks me, rather, when people say it's a vibe all the time. Yeah, there's a specific YouTuber in the sneaker community, if you know him. I'm not going to name drop him, but he says that all the time, and It's just weird to me. But Emotion is a 70s vibe, like using in the proper form. So like she was very inspired by that era for that album, and it clearly shows. And like for me, I listen to albums. I don't really listen to like songs at a time. I don't download that many singles. I like to wait until the album comes out and then get the album. And then like I have on my music player, I forgot what it's called. I think it's Pulsar. You know what? Let me actually check. So my phone's right here. Oh, Phonogram. Yeah, so I remember Pulsar was my old one, and now I have Phonogram. But on the app itself, I don't use the star rating. Like, it doesn't have a star. It's just like or dislike, which I like better. Pardon me. Cut that part out. And you won't know what part I cut out, but I just coughed, so I'm going to cut that out. But yeah, it has a like button. So it puts all the songs into a liked playlist, which is incredible. So I go through like the albums itself, and I just hit like if I like that song. And then if I just don't know what to pick that day, you have to go into that playlist and just play all the songs that I know I like. But yeah, her 2 new songs, they don't match Emotion itself. They're more like 80s than 70s, which I remember when after Emotion came out, and even Emotion the B-sides, which is it's another really good album. It's not as good as Emotion. You can tell it is like the B-sides, but there's a bunch of still catchy songs on that. But yeah, these new songs have more of an 80s vibe, and she talked about how Emotion was 70s and how her next album she wanted to be 80s. And she also had the song Party for One, which I'm not sure if that's going to be on her new album. She didn't announce anything really about her new album. She just kind of said Q1 2019, fingers crossed. But yeah, Party for One, that came out as a single. I didn't like it as much as I like these 2 new songs. So the 2 new songs, let me actually tell you the title of them, are No Drug Like Me and Now That I Found You. So No Drug Like Me is my favorite of the 2. It starts out pretty slow, but as soon as the chorus hits, it gets into the nice just 80s heavy synth, and just it seems kind of cheesy to use Emotion again, but that emotional vibe that comes out of that like era and that genre of pop music then. Like, it's not just like bubblegum pop or it's just la-di-da-di, like How I Met Your Mother reference, Let's Go to the Mall, a cute campy song. Her songs tend to have a little bit more weight to them, I feel, now compared to like her older albums, Kiss. So we can get in depth. We can have a whole Carly Rae Jepsen like episode in the future. But yeah, those 2 new songs, I've listened to those a lot in the last week. Just other things that came out, like 2 Chainz' album. I tried listening to that. While writing a paper, and it's kind of distracting. But 2 Chainz, you have to be in a certain kind of mood, I feel, to listen to 2 Chainz. I went back to his older album. The name is escaping me right now, but the Pink album. The one that he talked that Nike stole their idea, or his album cover art, an idea, and put it on a shoe, that album. But yeah, Carly Rae Jepsen's 2 new songs, No Drug Like Me and Now That I Found You. I feel like if that's the sound and just the overall tone that she's going to go for in her new album, it's going to be another success. Emotion was a huge success, and I rate success for albums or artists like that, rather, or albums and artists like that, not just based on like radio play, because like nowadays when you get in your car, a lot of cars have Bluetooth and either Apple Play or Android Auto, so you can just play Spotify from your phone, and then like you can go from listening to it in your house and then into your car, and it'll continually play, which is amazing. But yeah, most people, I feel like more and more people do that now, especially if you're going, like, you're commuting to work and for a long time, like half an hour plus, or you're listening to a podcast like this, who knows. So yeah, definitely those streaming numbers matter a lot. Album sales, they do matter. Streaming is kind of more relevant to just this generation, but those 2 new songs, if the album sounds like these 2 songs, I feel like it'd be a huge success for her again. Emotion, again, ranks one of my top 5 albums of all time, and actually, 2 albums on my top 5 that are pop. So one of the episodes will talk about music and one episode's for sneakers. So after I'm done recording and editing this, I'll go do write-ups for those episodes as well. But yeah, I didn't want to go too heavy for episode 1, just talking about Carly Rae Jepsen, and 2, nice, pop, happy, you can say a little bit cheesy, but in like a good way cheesy, or campy songs, but give them a listen. Let's see, put the outro. Hopefully I won't get like demonetized or request for it taken down if I put the 2 new songs in the outro, or one of them. So give you a quick like 30-second clip. But yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you all have a good day or good night whenever you are listening to this, and I'll see you soon. But yeah, thanks for listening to the Just the Ramblings podcast, episode 1. I'm your host, Stefan, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.